Have you ever been confused about starting your IELTS Task 2 question? Well, you're not alone. And indeed, if you give a strong start to your IELTS Task 2, then it's going to really help you get started well with your examiner and your score, of course. The problem is, most students get stuck. They don't really know how to start, and then they just end up copying what is written in the question for them. This is basically a recipe for disaster. Today, I'm going to solve that problem for you. We're going to focus on one specific part of the introduction to your task 2. This is the first 1 or 2 sentences that you write, and it's called the background statement. So, if you're aiming to get a band 7 in your task 2 writing, stay right through to the end and get some really useful information on how to begin your task 2 powerfully and successfully. I'm going to give you 4 things you can do to write a unique background statement, and we'll look at 3 examples as well. So make sure that you do watch through the whole video. If this is your first time visiting IELTS Breakthrough, thank you for clicking on this video. IELTS Breakthrough helps you get a high score in IELTS so that you can study at an international university and improve in your career. My name's David and I am your IELTS coach. So first, let's look at the IELTS introduction paragraph. There are basically 2 components to your introduction paragraph. That is the background statement, that's what you begin with, and then the thesis statement. Now, I'll deal with the thesis statement in another video. So let's look at the background statement. What exactly is a background statement? Well, it is either 1 or 2 sentences that shows you understand the actual topic of the question. Without it, your answer can feel rather vague to the examiner, and it can affect your score if you don't have a strong, clear background statement. The good news is that there really is only one skill that you need to master to write a really good background statement, and that is the skill of paraphrasing. Now, to do paraphrasing, there are 4 tools that you can use. Let's go through these tools now. Tool number 1 is replacing. That's where you replace words with synonyms. Tool number 2 is to change the word form. For example, verbs to nouns or nouns to verbs. Tool number 3 is to change the sentence structure. And tool number 4 is to either separate or combine ideas. Let me explain these one by one. First up, we have synonyms, and synonyms is where you swap a keyword that is given to you in the question with a different word. Now, this does not have to be really difficult. Make it easy for yourself. For example, children can become young people. Increase can be swapped with rise. Governments, you can swap that out with the word authorities. Tool number 2 is word form changes. In this one, if the question uses like a noun or a verb, then you swap it around. So if it is a noun in the question, you use a verb in your paraphrase. Let me show you with this one. In the task 2 question, you read, there is a growth in obesity. This becomes, obesity has grown significantly. Now, tool number 3 is where you manipulate the sentence structure. Here, you might change an active voice to the passive voice, or you might move clauses around put them in different positions in the sentence. For example, if you read, technology helps people communicate, this becomes, communication has been transformed by technology. The last tool, tool number 4, is to separate or combine ideas. When you look at the question, quite often the question does have 2 different ideas there, and this might be written as one sentence or 2 separate sentences. So you do the reverse. So let's look at some examples so you can see this in practice. As we look at these examples, I'm only going to show you the topic section of the Task 2 question. IELTS Task 2 questions have 2 components. The first component is where they state the topic, and then component number 2 is the writing instruction. And by the way, I do have a video on the different writing instructions, so if you want to check that out, please have a look at that video after this one. Okay, here's example number 1. So this is the topic statement from the Task 2 question. Some people think that technology has made our lives more complicated. Others disagree. And here is an example background statement. In the modern era, the rapid advancement of digital technology has sparked debate about whether it simplifies or adds complexity to everyday life. Notice what changed. Technology became digital technology, made our lives more complicated, became, adds complexity to everyday life. And the whole sentence was restructured from a 2-part statement into just one sentence. Let's look at another example. This one is on the topic of education. Here is the Task 2 topic. Universities should only offer courses that lead to jobs. And the example background statement is here. There is a growing discussion about whether higher educational institutions should focus specifically on programs that prepare graduates for the workforce. Here, universities became higher educational institutions. Courses that lead to jobs became programs that prepare graduates for the workforce. And that is a nice paraphrase. Okay, one more example to go through. This one, we're going to look at the topic of the environment. Here is the topic question from Task 2. The increase in the number of private cars is causing serious problems in many cities around the world. Now, let's look at a background statement for this example. Rising levels of private vehicle ownership have created significant challenges for urban areas across the globe. Once again, look at how this has been paraphrased. Increase in the number of private cars, that becomes rising levels of private vehicle ownership. Serious problems becomes significant challenges. And cities around the world becomes urban areas across the globe. So we have 3 synonyms there and a changed structure. That is a solid background statement. We've looked at some examples to show you how to do it. Now, let's just finish off the video by looking at a bad and a good background statement. We'll start with a weak background statement. Here it is. Some people think that technology has made our lives more complicated. Others disagree. Now, this one is a direct copy. There is no paraphrasing, no original language. Examiners will notice this immediately and they will lower their expectations for the rest of the essay. Let's look at the same topic but with a much better background statement. In the modern era, the rapid advancement of digital technology has sparked debate about whether it simplifies or adds complexity to everyday life. You can see the meaning is the same, but we're using completely different vocabulary and structure. This is what gets you the higher marks. One thing to avoid is that you do not write too much either. It's kind of easy to get carried away and write a long background statement. Make sure it is only a maximum of 2 sentences. 1 sentence is actually better. Also, make sure that you do not over-paraphrase and change everything so much that you have actually changed the topic that is delivered to you in that Task 2 question. So, let's just summarize what we've covered in this video. The background statement is the first section, the first component in your introduction paragraph. Write it strongly and put yourself on course for a much higher score in IELTS. To do this, you need to paraphrase. There are the 4 tools that you apply when paraphrasing. Use synonyms, change word forms, restructure the sentence, and never copy from the original question. So here's a practice task for you. I'm going to put a Task 2 topic in the description below. Have a go and write your own background statement and put it in the comment sections here on YouTube. I'll take a look and give you feedback. And also remember that there are plenty more videos about how to improve your score in the Task 2 writing question right here at IELTS Breakthrough. So make sure that you check the playlist out right here. And I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, week, afternoon, whatever you are doing.